So, welcome to vBrownbag. I'm here with Gabriel Chapman. Hello, Gabe.
Hi, I'm here with Amy Lewis. Hello, Amy.
This is what happens when podcasters podcast about podcasting. So we wanted to talk today about how to navigate your career in public, which is a question that comes up a lot, especially in a time where the market is changing so rapidly and people are changing careers left and right. And people who have a strong social presence, a podcast, a blog, they're out there tweeting. How do you go on record for your company, be an advocate for your company in one role, and then transition to another role? So, Gabe, you've switched in the last few years.
Maybe just once or twice.
A couple times. How do you do that and not come off like a jerk?
And not come off like a jerk? Well, here, I kind of approach it a few different ways. One, always kind of try to leave the last organization you were with on the best terms possible and try not to burn any bridges and don't badmouth them in public. Sure, you can do it under your breath, and like you can rant to somebody else on the down low, but I mean, don't be that guy that goes out and immediately goes to company B, especially if they're somewhat in the same competitive space, and goes, oh well, yeah, their product was trash and yada yada yada. It boils down to kind of having a sense of decorum and treat the company you used to work for fairly. Mm-hmm. I think that really helps. I mean, I've had, 5 jobs, 5 jobs in 5 years or something like that, and it's, I mean, sometimes it's a good fit. Sometimes it's a stepping stone position. Like my first job on the sales engineering side was kind of a stepping stone position. It was like, I'm going to do this for a year and kind of see what's out there, and then I started transitioning more into the startup space. In many respects, it's kind of finding your way, and especially for somebody who's like a really old person like I am, who started doing this when he was like 39. If I was 24, 25, it probably wouldn't matter so much. But I always get that. My wife loves to do this. She likes to say, "Hey, you're jumping around too much. You're doing too much." I'm like, well, you know what? In our career, you can kind of jump around a little bit. It's just a matter of how you jump around and how you time it. Right?
I think that's really true, and I think you hit on a few good points there, which if you end up trashing products at anybody's company, former, future, et cetera, it doesn't do you any favors, and I find it really limits that person's credibility because you come off as pretty negative. I think there are ways to say things that are constructive so that you get that balance between what you as an individual technologist think and what you are required to say for your company. And I think it's important to strike that right balance because there's a way to do that gracefully. And I think it leaves you a lot more space to be seen as thoughtful and trustworthy, which is really almost your stock and trade as somebody who, if you want to be public and that's part of what you bring to your job is that outward-facing voice, you become a less valuable commodity the more you trash other people and the more you are seen as blowing with whichever way the wind goes.
Right. If you're a caustic influence, like let's say you go to company A, and you left company A and you went to company B, and now all you ever do is bash on company A, and it's gonna like people will notice, right? I mean, especially if you're super vociferous in the way you do it. It really can impact your career and your future prospects. I always like to say, like, I don't necessarily want to drink the Kool-Aid. A lot of times I want to make the Kool-Aid. And in that way, you kind of have the opportunity to kind of go out there and craft the message, and then have others, have others do things on your behalf, or have others work in conjunction with you to get those messages out. Because it does. Some people are going to say immediately, it's like, oh, well, you were just at this company, and they made this widget just kind of like the product the company you're at now, and why do you have any credibility in it? And I think a lot of it is basically saying, never overpromise. Never bash the previous product or previous company you work with, or at least have a discussion about the differences, and maybe even go into some of the reasons why you decided to go, hey, I didn't feel like the direction of this company was in line with my personal viewpoint of where the direction of the technology should go. And there are completely valid reasons for going to another organization.
And I like what you said. I think when you keep it personal, people can understand and relate to that. And that way they can say, well, I can see how you made that choice, but I would make a slightly different one.
Right.
And another tactic I've counseled people on is sometimes it requires a quiet period. If you're going between people who are directly competitive, it may not be a bad thing to to give yourself 30, 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if you are an avid tweeter or some other form of social engagement, maybe you keep that to more personal or your hobby interest, and you sort of stay away from technology debates while you're ramping up on the new products and while you're kind of transitioning. It gives people a moment to breathe.
There's that period of time when you come on board of a new organization that you're drinking from the fire hose, and you should just be completely focused on this. And trust me, it's like every time I've gotten a new job, I've just wanted to like get out there and socialize it. I'm doing this, that, and the other. But what I found lately is that I've taken a little bit of more of a step back before I sit down and really truly formulate what I want to write about. Because I tend to write about my career changes on my website more than I do anything else, or areas that I've focused on in terms of what I do when I write. And I think it's because for me it's kind of cathartic. It's a way to kind of get my feelings out there. Like there's probably half a dozen blog posts that sit in my brain right now about the whole SolidFire NetApp acquisition. But I've kind of told myself I'm purposely going to sit back and wait a little bit for the dust to settle before I start to put some of that stuff out. And frankly, it looks better that way. Because if you transition jobs and then like the first day you start job number 2, and it's like 10 blog posts about how great their technology is. It's like, well, you probably haven't been there long enough to really absorb that and actually get the messaging. And I think it's.
Or what were you doing at job 1 while you were?
Well, that was slow over there.
It's going to make job 3 really look at you a lot more suspiciously.
Yeah. And some people they take time off between gigs. Myself, it's usually the job ends on Friday and I start job 2 on Monday. Because health insurance. But no, it's there's just so many different factors to take into account, and I just think it's kind of like, live by certain simple rules of treat others the way you'd want to be treated, treat an ex-company the way you would want them to treat you, because you never know when that company is going to buy your company. You may end up working with the same people that was your boss at some other company at some other point. This is a small industry. Really? I don't think people really realize that. It seems like, this technology is this massive overriding thing, but in reality, it's like I can go to any organization and probably say that I've worked with 3 or 4 people at that organization when I go from one company to another company to another.
Well, I mean, it's as simple as long as you've worked with one person at any one of those companies, those odds are incredibly high, and that's your reputation. Your reputation with that one person
precedes you, exactly.
with that whole company, and something to remember.
Yeah, and if you want, you want to have a positive outlook, and you want to start off day 1 with the new job, hopefully, people will talk. They will call your ex-bosses informally. It's never official, or they will talk to people that you've worked with, because I guarantee you they've worked with 2 or 3 of those people as well to get a feel for you. And it's like, hey, was this guy, was he on the level or is he kind of sleazy? Because that'll set the tone for the success inside the new organization, because there are so many different factors that come into play when you're starting a new gig. That first 6 months is all about learning the company, learning the culture, learning the technology, learning what to do, what not to do, learning how to apologize for all the things that you're going to do anyway.
Yeah, that's important.
Exactly.
Well, what else? What do we want to leave the listeners with? It's funny, I was thinking about, we're both podcasters in our spare time, all jokes aside, and I actually find that's a great way to have those more neutral discussions.
Sure.
So I think it can be, you're talking about ways to kind of step outside yourself if you need a cooling off period or kind of a transitional period. Even listening to podcasts, I think.
Oh yeah.
It's not to pimp necessarily our podcast, but in general, this concept.
In Tech We Trust, every Wednesday.
But I think find some things, if you find that you're about to transition or transitioning, going out and listening to people talking about the industry in general, I think can move you back to that place of neutrality. Because maybe you did have a bad run with the last place you were at and you are feeling frustrated. But kind of raising your own thoughts, elevating the conversation even within yourself, if you will. Going out and sort of listening can help balance that. I just have found myself a lot through this transitional period. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, so maybe it's my own. Not that anything's bad, but to get a perspective, because you are inside a transition, and it doesn't look the same as from an outside. So for me, it's had a very positive effect to kind of look at the world in a broader way.
Sure. Whenever you look at the world through somebody else's eyes, it gives you a new set of perspective, right? And I think that's definitely something I do. I probably have 15 or 20 podcasts that I listen to somewhat religiously, and each one of them, they're industry related for the most part, and every one of them you can take a little bit and piece from it. I think it's just part of being kind of a well-rounded and broad-minded person to get input from other people and not be afraid to take, or even have a discussion with somebody and get their feedback on it. I'm a big fan of having mentors and people that you work with that are there you can call and have a chat with, and I think that's also really helpful as well. Because sometimes they can take
you out of your own head.
Because you can really kind of like get this bunker mentality and just kind of like focus everything through the prism of the now, and sometimes you need to kind of step back and have that out of body experience and kind of live through somebody else's eyes.
No, completely agree. So and of course vBrownbag, another great way to do that. It's another excellent way of listening to perspectives that they aren't your own. So
certainly.
Broaden your mind.
And the Geek Whisperers. I mean, those guys are always talking about super awesome career stuff. In fact, the one thing I would say is recently a lot of the episodes you guys have done have been around career change and career challenges and things to do in the industry, and I think that's really valuable as well. So if we're going to plug stuff, I'm going to plug you. Phrasing.
What better way to end a podcast?
There you go.
All right. Well, I think that's it. So if people want to find you to ask questions,
you can always find me on the Twitter at Bacon is King. You can listen to me occasionally on In Tech We Trust when I'm not broadcasting from a toilet or a bath or a kitchen in an airport. I'm the one with the bad sound quality. And then obviously my blog is GabrielChapman.com. I know, horrible name.
So yeah, I'm at Comms Ninja, and I also podcast for the Geek Whisperers. And when I'm not trying to take over Speaking in Tech, of course.
It's all our own goals.
It's true. We all have to have dreams. So thanks everybody out there. Good luck with your career transitions and your journey. And if you've got any questions, please reach out to both of us. It's stuff we think about all the time. So we'd love to hear your opinion.
Thank you.